Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you another exciting first look, this time at the last of the Soviet divisions. This is the 7th Eesti Laskurdiviis, which is one of the new divisions available in the upcoming DLC, Burning Baltics. As a disclaimer, Eugen have given me free access to the DLC, so big thanks to them. Also, please remember this is an early preview, so what you see may be subject to change. If you'd like to read the description on the right hand side, feel free to pause the video and take a look, but I'm going to be jumping straight on in. As usual, we'll be looking at all of the units available, and then I'm going to put together a quick deck. This one, though, might be quite amusing because there are a lot of interesting pronunciations. This is the 7th Estonian Rifle Division, by the way. I have been using Google Translate quite a lot to try and get the pronunciations right, but I am, of course, going to probably forget half of them as I record this video, so bear with me. All right, moving on into the Recon tab. First of all, we're going to have something that is easy for me to say. The WLA DT. There we go. Lovely. Good start. Good start. These, 4 of them in Phase A. You're going to be just YOLOing these into the enemy if you're ever going to use them, just to see if there's anything ahead of you. A bit of a waste of activation points. But moving on, we have the Jalg Patrol. These guys are the 2-man Recon squad. Very similar to your standard Recon squads on the Soviet side. 2 submachine guns. You can bring them in with the BA-20 though, which is a really nice transport. So definitely something to consider. Would make them a 25-point call-in, and you get both like a 2-man squad that you're just going to hide, plus a Recon car that you can maybe use a bit more offensively. Then there's the Mil Mortar. These guys have the M3A1 available for them. The 4-man squad, 3 SVTs, 1 PPS, so basically exactly the same as a Mortar Vitka. Nothing too special there, but an interesting choice. 10 points more than the combination with the Jagdpatrol. Moving on, we got the snipers here, the Ptrs Squads. These guys can also come in with the BA-20, which is interesting to think about. Honestly, this might be a better combination than both of the previous ones. So that you can like drop off your snipers at range and then have this drive further in to provide you with more close range recon. Then there's the Razza Lura. These guys are basically Kanai Razudka, cavalry scouts, and these are 11-man squads with 2 submachine guns and 9 Mosin Nagants. And they can be brought in with the M2 half-track, but I wouldn't really recommend it. But a nice chunky squad if you need something with a bit more staying power. Finally, there is the T-70 Vitka in the Recon tab for the 7th Estonian Rifles. This is actually a pretty damn good tank for its price, like 40 points. It can do a lot of damage to tanks much bigger than it with the APCR shells. The APCR shells are only 1000 meter range, but they have 100 mils of penetration, which scales very well the closer you get. And it has 55% accuracy, so you're not really going to be missing. With 10 round per minute rate of fire, it's pretty strong as well. AP shells are also decently accurate at 1250 meter range, and then HE shells to back that up with the machine gun, so can be used for infantry support, of course. Speaking of infantry, let's move on to the infantry tab, which is probably one of the hardest tabs for me to pronounce, so yeah, get ready to laugh. Alright. First off, we have the Pianeri. These guys have 4 submachine guns and 2 HE for 10 points. Now, these are very, very good value for money. Really, really good. Normally, you see something like Separi PPSH, which have like 4 submachine guns and a Panzerfaust. Now, those aren't very good because the Panzerfaust doesn't get much use. But these kinds of squads are actually really strong because they have a nice amount of damage against enemy infantry squads they're going to be bumping into early. So on the Axis side, you're going to have people throwing Flammenwerfers at you, you're going to have people throwing like Stostrup at you, and these squads can deal with those very well, and all of those squads I just mentioned cost more. So you're going to get good value for money out of these at the start of the game for sure. So this is a really nice card. Then we have the Kulepilderite Yut. This is your Avto leaders, basically, but they have PPSs instead of, or PPS 43s instead of PPSHs. So, yeah, pretty standard stuff for availability in Phase A. Then we have the Laskurid. These guys are your standard rifle squads. They've got the 1 submachine gun, 9 Mozins and a DP. It's interesting to see that like all of their infantry sport the PPS 43 instead of the PPSH. So that's an interesting thing to point out. I'm not sure if this is any particularly better than the PPSH, especially when there's only one of them. You're not really going to make much of a difference, but it's a nice sort of flavor add in there. You can see that soldier in the center there has it in his hand. Then we have the Laskarite Yut. These guys have the PPSH, or sorry, the PPS 43 and the SVT. 4 of these available in Phase A, and you get smoke. So these are probably a better choice, personally, than the 15-point variant. Then we have the Tankisoetiad. These guys are your Tankin Desaniki. Tankin Desaniki squads, 8-man with a Molotov. You can bring them in with the M2 half-track. These are pretty much the only squad that... this is the only transport that these have, so that these are going to be the squad that you're going to want to use them with if you're bringing these in. Then we have the Kulepilderid. These guys are similar to Avtos, 10 PPSHs and a close range heat grenade for dealing with tanks. Then we have the Laskurid DP. These are your equivalent Stalker DP, 9 Mozins, 2 DPs. All of these have like Stidbeckers and Zis 5s as their transports. Then there's Laskurid SVTs, which are the Strelki SVT equivalent, but with the PPS 43 instead. 9 SVTs and the DPs there. These are actually pretty nice medium range engagement squads. Then we have the Mustad Mantlet. These guys are a pretty beastly squad. 15-man squad. They are disheartened, but they can put out a lot of fire at the mid-range in towns, and they're pretty chunky. And the thing about them being disheartened is, whilst that can be annoying because they automatically run away when they get pinned down, because there's so many men in each squad, you're going to be able to go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards a lot of times towards enemy positions, and that's going to slow down the enemy. They're not going to be able to advance really if you're pushing onto them. And so you can continue that for a very long time. 25 points is a pretty nice sort of price for this kind of squad. You get 18 in Phase A and 27 in Phase B, and there is 3 cards of these. So that you can get a lot of these boys. We have the Pianeri. These guys, 2 PPS 43s, 7 SVTs, DP 28 and TNT. Similar to the Sapere, very good squad. These are really, really nice. So definitely something to look into. And then the Pianeri Yut. These guys have PPS 43s, the SVT 40s, and the Panzerfaust there. And finally, we have the Tankisoyeta Yut. These are very cool. 6-man squad, 5 submachine guns, but they have a sniper. And sniper leaders can be pretty damn useful in certain situations. It can cause them to get shot at, but like say if you're in a position where you're pushing through a forest and then like your infantry squad spots a anti-tank gun at range. Generally, most of the stuff you have, especially on the Soviet side with like DPs and stuff, aren't going to kill it very effectively. So you kind of have this as a backup to take care of it. You've only got 15 shots on the sniper, but that should be just about enough to kill like 1 or 2 maybe support weapons if they're damaged. And that is your infantry tab. Alright, moving on to the tank tab. T26s are here once again. These little cool things. We haven't really seen much of these since the Finnish DLC, I guess. And yeah, it's a T26. Not really much else to say. 1,250 meter range, 50% accuracy on its main gun, which is actually not too bad. A little leader variant here has 2 available in Phase 8 with 1-star veterancy. Then there's the T26E, which has a little bit extra frontal armor compared to the standard T26. But same stats more or less otherwise. It is just as slow, and yeah, armaments are exactly the same. But you get 9 of these in Phase A and 18 in Phase B. These could be something that you could use for like close range fire support in light cover, but I'm not too sure if these are really going to get used that much, especially when you have things like the Churchill 4. Now the Churchill 4 is a really nice unit because it has pretty decent penetration on its 6-pounder. Now you got 115 millimeters of penetration. You only able to engage at 1,500 meters range, mind you. But when you are in range, there's not many other like medium tanks of the same price range that can beat this. So you're going to be able to do a lot of damage with this thing at closer ranges. And it has a really good rate of fire with a couple of basic machine guns as well to help pin down enemy infantry. So this is a really nice choice in Phase A or B, where you can get 5 or 10 of them. These like nice Lend-Lease Churchills. Then we have the T-34 76 Yud. This is the T-34 76 leader. T-34s, I think they're going to struggle in the new DLC. 1,500 meter range with only 40% base accuracy is pretty rough. So I guess maybe they'll be useful closer up due to their HE&2 machine guns, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure the leader's really going to be used at all. These being at 55 points does definitely make them a lot less value for money than they used to be compared to like AT guns, which are much better value for money now, but you're just going to have to make sure you use them in smarter positions. These, yeah, pretty standard stuff. We've seen them before. 75 mils of frontal armor, 1,500 meter range on their main gun, 8 available in Phase A, 16 in C, and 22 in Phase C. So you probably don't want to bring them in C. If you're going to bring them at all, I would just recommend like B. It's probably best, or A, just for like abundance of medium armor to back up your infantry. But you do get KV-1Ss, and these KV-1Ss are pretty nice. 95 millimeters of frontal armor is actually pretty damn good. And then they have a reasonable gun on them as well. Only 1,500 meter range again, but the 100 millimeters of penetration is good enough to get through most medium armor at that range. Then we have the KV-1S Camarati, which is the leader variant, but you can get 6 of the standard variant in Phase A, whilst only 2 of the leader variant. Alright, let's move on to the support tab. We first of all have the Legi Haitiad. These are your flamethrowers. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correct at all. But yeah, your standard flamethrower squad. You can get 6 of these in Phase A, 9 in Phase B. You've got the Schmersh. These are your military police. 4 PPSHs, 4 Mosin Nagants, and a DP, so a little bit of a more chunky military police unit, and will definitely complement the abundance of disheartened units in the infantry tab very well. It's just a shame that you only get 1 card of these. Then we have the Mini Pildura. If I'm pronouncing that right, I don't know, it's probably nowhere near, but this is just a 50 mil mortar. These have indirect fire capability, so that is a very nice thing about them, and might be good to support your infantry in heavy forest engagements. There's the Maxim with the 1,000 meter range there. 6 of these available in Phase A, 12 in B, and 18 in C. Then there's the Infantry Gun, 1,500 meter range on this thing now. But still high rate of fire, just going to have to make sure you hide it a little bit better. You can get 6 of these in A and 12 in B. If you upbet them, of course, that goes down. There are 4 cards of supply available in the support tab. And then we move on to the Commandos. the motorcycle here. There is the infantry variant, and you can also get the M2 half-track as well. Half-track's probably going to be your best bet. Alright, moving on to the anti-tank tab. We've got Ptrs Squads available. These might be quite nice early on for dealing with enemy transports, but that's about it. Maybe some light vehicles you can take out with these, but the penetration's not quite there on the Ptrs. There is the 45 mils available. These have the 1,250 meter range now, but accuracy is actually pretty damn high on these, so you might be able to get some good use out of them. And the 100 mils of penetration on the APCR is going to scale very well as tanks get closer. There is access to the F22 AT in this division, which is interesting. Usually you see these in the artillery tab, but this is an AT specific variant with HE shells, and the HE shells I think can still indirect fire, as you can see down here. But your main gun is going to be firing at 1,500 meter range with a 40% accuracy, which isn't actually terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible for the price. Usually they're a bit overpriced because you bring them in the artillery tab, but now with their little bit of a cost reduction there, I think. Yeah, normally they're 60 points. You might be able to get some use out of the AP shells. Then there's the Su-76 MPTs. These do come with the APCR on their main gun, but it's only good at 1,000 meter range. AP shells, 1,500 meter range, but with 45% accuracy. So pretty good accuracy for the 1,500 meter range. And then you've got the Su-85s. Always recommend bringing these in upvetted, but standard stats are 1,750 meter range on the gun and 50% accuracy. So there you go. That's the anti-tank tab. Moving on to anti-air. Nothing crazy going on here other than the name of the 37th. The Dushka. You got the Maxim 4M. Pretty standard trucks. And then, are you ready? we're gonna have a look at the Ohuto Yeka Yurid 37mm. Yeah. This thing is probably going to be your best bet. You get 3 cards available of them, so probably just upvet a couple of them in phase A and B, and you should be fine. Then artillery tab, we have the Sertu Coixus. These guys are your observers, your artillery observers, and your Jögestelltayad. These are your artillery leaders. So there we go. Pretty standard stuff there between the two. Then we have the F22s available as artillery. More specifically, these have smoke, whereas the AT variants do not. You've got 82mm mortars, 6 cards of those available, which is quite a lot of mortars. Never really see anyone bring in all the mortars though, because they kind of drain through supply and don't really get you the same value for money out of them. There's the 122s though. These have had their heat range shortened to the 1,500 meter range now, so you're going to want to use these like from ambushing positions if you want to pop tanks, as opposed to engaging enemy units at max range like you kind of used to, and then just smack them with that 12 HE damage and just destroy them. But the HE shell is 40% accurate direct fire. The range is like unlimited, I'm pretty sure. You can get 3 of these in A, 6 in B, get 2 cards available. There is 120mm mortars available. There's also a 152mm off map. You can get 1 in A, 2 in B, and 3 in C. These have 3 strikes available on each, so that's very nice. And then the Andrusha. Good old Andrusha. Probably going to want to bring these in the late game just to give you some oomph in that artillery tab, that's for sure. These can be very, very powerful if used correctly. Finally, the air tab for the 7th Estonian. They start off with Boston, Recon Bostons. These generally aren't used that often, but this is quite high resilience recon unit, and it's pretty fast. Yak 7s are available, and you can get 3 in A, 6 in B, and 9 in C. The A20 Zuchok is available. This has the 4 ground attack ventral guns, as well as the 420mm in the nose, so awesome at taking out support weapons, but not really that good in general though, because they have like a really wide turning circle and therefore like takes them ages to line up their gun runs. Then we have one of the new units from the Estonian division here, the Il2. This is a really cool bomber. It's a big old bomber, and it has 20 100-kilogram bombs in this setup, which is pretty awesome. That's a lot of 100-kilogram bombs, and it's very good at probably taking out big groups of infantry, because 100-kilogram bombs are generally pretty powerful at doing so as compared to 50-kilogram bombs. So this is a pretty nice payload. You can only get 1 in A, 2 in B, and 4 in C though, so the availability is a little low. There is the SU-2 here. This has rockets. This is an anti-tank rocket SU-2. We've seen the SU-2 briefly before, but yeah, this one has anti-tank rockets instead of the bombs. I think the other one we've seen. You can get 1 of them in A, 2 in B, and 4 in C. The fact this has 10 anti-tank rockets is actually going to make it pretty strong. Because the more you hit, the more likely you are to kill. So the IL-2s with lower amounts of rockets are usually not as good, especially ones that only have like 4 rockets, for example. There is also the Yak-7B, which is also loaded up with anti-tank rockets, 6 of those on there. You can get 2 of those in A, 4 in B, and 7 in C. So that's quite a lot of anti-tank rocket planes if you want them. There is a card of the LA-5s. Looking awesome as always. 2 in A, 4 in B, 8 in C. Really good air dogfighter. It does have the 610 km/h speed, so you're going to be able to catch up to those pesky Arado bombers ever so slightly. And then we've got the Il2 cluster planes. Now these are probably one of the most reliable anti-tank options. It's just whether or not you can get them close enough to drop their payload before they get pinned down. Because if they get pinned a little bit too much, then the cluster bombs spread out, and then you're less likely to get the kill onto the tank that you're targeting. But yeah, just like the Ju-87s that have cluster bombs, these IL-2s can be very reliable in killing enemy tanks. And you can get 1 in A, 2 in B, and 4 in C. And there's the LA-5 variant with 50-kilogram bombs. You can actually get 3 of these in Phase A, which might make them preferable to the LA-5FN. You're only paying 5 points more, and you can just drop the bombs and then use it as a fighter. Finally, we've got the big boy variant of the Il2, which is carrying the 3 1,000-kilogram bombs. It's a slow boy, but it certainly packs some punch, that's for sure, when it hits its target. Yeah. Nice big payload there. Look at those big bombs. Crazy stuff. And that is about it. Nothing special in the defensive tab there. Alright, let's go ahead and put together a quick battle group. So in the Recon tab, we probably want to use some snipers with the BA-20s. And then I'm probably going to bring in some of the Razza Lura in Phase B to be my sort of ongoing infantry throughout the game, and I'm also going to bring in the T-70 Razvitkas. Then we have the infantry tab. Pianeri, I think, are going to be very useful early on, so I'm going to try them out. We're going to bring them in Phase A. We're going to want some of these Mustad Mantlet. These guys are going to be the backbone of your main forces in this division, I feel. We're probably going to want to bring in these as well. I think I might save these for Phase B though, since we have the Pianeri in Phase A. So yeah, we'll bring in these guys in the M2, the Tanke Soitiad. Alright, so now we need to choose a leader. I'm probably going to go for the 20-point leader with smoke in Phase A. And I'm also going to bring in some of the Laskurid with the SVTs in Phase A as well. So that should be enough for infantry in Phase A. I'm going to bring in a card of the Laskurid SVTs in Phase B as well. Tempted to upbet them. And then Phase C, we'll add the Mustad Mantlet in Phase B, but generally those are going to be more like late game infantry based, I think. I could just move out the Laskurid SVT and move them to Phase C, actually. That might be a better choice. In late game, we should start like relying on those. Laskurid with the EP, not entirely convinced that that's a good choice. Avto equivalents. I think I might just have like some Laskurid, like standard Laskurid, in Phase C. And we'll leave it at that for now. There is kind of room for another leader there, potentially, but I'm going to save the activation points for now. So I'm going to want these Churchills. I think these Churchills would be best suited in Phase A, but it depends, because I feel like KV-1Ss will fill that gap, and they can only be brought in Phase A. So we'll bring in KV-1Ss in Phase A. And I'm probably going to bring in T-34s later on. We got 22 available of those in Phase C, that's nuts. So we'll bring the Churchills in Phase B. And maybe the T-26s to accompany us in Phase A. I'm not putting any leaders in there. I'm not sure if this is a good setup. I feel like having these in Phase B would be enough. And also probably give us more of like a versatile option. I don't know. It's hard to say. This division's not really going to be able to last into the late game, as well as a lot of the other divisions that we've seen. It has some decent infantry, but I feel like it's definitely like more of an early game division, but you probably still want to build it balanced, because it doesn't work too well with Maverick, because there's not really like any super expensive choices in Phase B. It might be like a good choice for something like Flatline even. But Vanguard could definitely work well for this. I just don't like to build Vanguard units or decks because I use them in 3v3 and 4v4 quite often. Probably definitely want the Schmish. We'll bring them in Phase B to accompany the numerous number of disheartened troops that we have. I'm going to bring in the M2 Commander. And I think I might bring in a card of these 20 Mil Mortars, actually. Yeah, we're going to do that. And we're going to have to think about supply, so I'll leave a little bit of a gap for supply. Su-85s, we definitely want to bring those in Phase A, since that's the only phase we can bring them in. I am tempted to bring some Su-76s in Phase B. We'll bring in some PTRSs early on. And probably going to bring in some AT guns as well. Okay, moving on to anti-air. So probably just want to go for these in Phase A, B, and C, with the up bet there to make them just that little bit stronger. Definitely want Androshas in C, probably want off map in C. That will certainly help the late game quite significantly. I could put Phase B artillery leaders to make up for the lack of artillery leaders in the infantry tab, because that's going to save me an activation point doing it here instead of in the infantry tab. And then we probably want some early game mortars that will get us through most of the game, although having some like 122s might be a nice idea as well. Let's move on to the air tab. I am going to want to use the IL-2 M3. I'm going to bring them in Phase B. We're going to bring the big old bombers because they're new and shiny, and I want to test them out properly. And then I think we're going to do LA5 FNs in Phase A as fighters, with maybe the Su-2s as rocket planes as well in Phase B, potentially. That leaves me with 2 points, which is probably supply. We do need mortar supply, so we'll have to probably bring them in phase B. That doesn't give us many uses of the Andrusha though. You definitely want both of the Andrushas. We would probably want a second card of supply, so you can use those Andrushas through the late game as well. Maybe I just bring in the Andrusha though in phase B and just have one of them, since we're not going to have the supply to reload to anyway. Maybe that's a better idea. We're going to have like lots of off-map and the big bombers, so maybe this will be okay. Let's move the tanks to phase C just to give us a bit more longevity. And I think I will leave it at that. So this is the 7th Estonian Rifle Division. The 7th Eesti Laskurdiviis. So, it's an interesting one. It's, I think, probably one of the weaker Soviet choices in the new DLC, but still certainly has a nice flavor to it because it's like an Estonian unit, and all of the infantry having like PPS 43s instead of PPSHs, and all of like the cool Estonian names and so on. I like the flavor to it. You've got some of the newer units in the air tab as well, the Year and the SU2. Got some of the older newer units like the T26s. Yeah, I don't think this will do too bad as like an early game division in more like 1v1 settings, because those Mustad Mantlet are going to be pretty damn good, I think. Just as just in general, and if you have like some of the Shmirsh maybe in phase A to back them up, they could really hold down a location pretty well. So yeah, something to... Well, I definitely look forward to playing it, that's for sure, to try and figure out how it should work. I think those 50mm mortars in the support tab are actually going to be super useful for backing up some of this infantry, smoking it off, allowing them to get further forwards, and providing a lot of fire downrange. These Pianeri as well are going to be super good early game, so they might get some really nice kills in there. Alright, yeah, we'll leave it at that. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think about the division in the comments, but that's it. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.